Hello, good morning, Professor Vijay S.Sahay, sir. Welcome back again, and thank you for your valuable time and inputs for us young anthropologists in India and elsewhere in the world. Your story will be an inspiring story as I learn, gradually learning things from your life and your passion for anthropology as a discipline and for its growth and theoretical progress. It has been a great encouraging thing. So I want to continue to ask questions. Thank you for your cooperation and kind, valuable inputs, sir. So my first question will be, who is your role model as an anthropologist from India? And
From India. Certainly Professor L.P. Vidyarthi. Not because he was my supervisor of my PhD thesis, not only because of this, but I hope in my earlier interview also I told you something, that I don't consider him to be the most outstanding anthropologist in the world. No, I don't say. I had told you that he was a very ordinary disposition he had, very ordinary. I told you, short-statured, back-brushed hair. And when I first saw him, I was disappointed. But gradually, I saw that he was a good teacher, and I have explained earlier. But more than that, during my trip to Andaman with him for the pilot survey, I did realize that he was a committed field worker. I tell you one instance only. In Kachal Island, it was so turbulent sea that nobody could disembark from the ship because the jetty was not there in those days, as early as in 1970. Now there is a jetty where a ship can go and anchor. So about, say, 200 yards away from the sea, there was a small bay where ships anchored and people came by boat, and by boat the disembarkation and embarkation both used to take place. But it was so rough that one. Even then Vidyarthi, and the same thing happened in Great Nicobar also at Campbell Bay, Pygmalion Point, which is today known as Indira Point. At the southern tip of the Great Nicobar Island. It was earlier known as Pygmalion Point. Now it is known as Indira Point, and there was a great devastation there during the 2004 tsunami. But in 1970, there also the sea was very rough. But he requested the captain, and the captain brought down a small boat from the ship, and he went there. So once I asked him, because I very usually in ship journey, I used to get seasick. Once I asked him, sir, don't you get sick? Then he said, no, I am a seaman, And his commitment to the field work was very good. Anybody who came from the field in the department, be it a student or a research scholar or anybody, he would give hero's welcome to him. And he would organize a lecture for him in the department. Of course, I told you that he was a very good teacher in anthropological theory, particularly. My interest in theory, in anthropological theory, had generated in Vidyarthi's class only. So that way, if you ask me about the role model for Indian anthropology, I have met all the senior anthropologists of the country. I have met Dr. Ayappan, I have met I.P. Singh, I have met P.K. Bhaumik, I have met Shamacharan Dubey, I have met Professor Danda, and everybody of that Vidyarthi's generation. Because for 5 years, Vidyarthi was the president of World Anthropology. So many people came to Ranchi, all people came to Ranchi and we interacted. And it was the Vidyarthi who definitely introduced me, and he assigned me to welcome him at the airport or the station, railway station, and then when going also see him off at the. So that way I used to interact, and number of them have impressed me, no doubt about it. But if you simply ask about my role model, then I spent most of the time with Vidyarthi for 15 long years. So naturally, he is my role model among the Indian anthropologists only. But if you talk about anthropology, then I would say two names whom I never saw because they probably died much before I started studying anthropology. The one, number one, is Brownislaw Kasper Malinowski. And second is the father, the hero, and the guru of American anthropology, Frank Boas. And thereafter, some more also, even Margaret Mead. You know, at the age of 21, she went to Samoa. And Papua New Guinea also, she is growing up in New Guinea. Her first book is Coming of Age in Samoa. Second book is Growing Up in New Guinea. And I told you the other day that in New Guinea, even to this day, the cannibals are there. I mean, the cannibals, they do not eat human flesh because of hunger, because that is a tropical forest and the very rich fauna and flora in New Guinea islands are there. But that is a sort of ritualistic cannibalism. Why I say ritualistic cannibalism? Because if a lot of warfare takes place among the different, the hunting gathering people there, a lot of warfare between the neighboring groups take place. So if they killed an enemy, they would necessarily eat the flesh of the enemy with this assumption that the power of that enemy or the strength of that enemy will be distributed among the members of the group. Likewise, even if a very able-bodied man from among their group, if he becomes old and is dying, then also the reports are there that they would kill him and distribute the flesh, eat the flesh, all the members, so that his talent, his merit, and everything will be distributed among them. So I call it a ritualistic cannibalism. One of my friends, a French anthropologist, Georges Molo, when he visited Ireland, he sent me letters and photographs of the cannibals also. Letters, I don't think that I have been able to preserve till now, but the photographs are there with me of the cannibals of Papua New Guinea. There, Margaret Mead did walk. She walked there. So in that way, she is also, but then Malinowski particularly, how much influence of Malinowski you can imagine. That I referred to you a book the other day, Ethnographic Researches in 2 volumes. It is edited by R.F. Allen. There you read about Malinowski's work and his participant observation. Because Malinowski absolutely changed the very definition, the very concept of participant observation. Otherwise, earlier people wrote in their writings, even now I find some of the theses, which come to me for evaluation, I find that I've done participant observation. And when in Viva examination, ask him, what is participant observation? They absolutely fail to respond satisfactorily. Because participant doesn't mean that you just dance a few steps with the tribal people or indigenous people and say that I've done participant observation. Participant method is not that if you're doing work within the agricultural community and if they're harvesting, you also take the sickle and harvest a few minutes and then take a photograph and publish in the thesis and say that I have done participant observation. No. Participant observation means living the life of the native. Living the life of the native. And if possible, collect the information in native language, if possible. I'm adding why. Because in RFLN book, one more thing has been written, that after Malinowski's work in Trabrian Ireland, because from 1930 to 1918, 5 years, with only brief intervals, he came to Australia for some work, and then he returned to. So 5 years almost he spent in the Trabrian Ireland. He learned the language of the people there. He camped in the, village only. And thus he collected the information. And then he claims that, yes, I'm the father of participant observation. You know, if you read, there is a book, Man and Culture, edited by Raymond Firth. It's a wonderful book. It's all only about Malinowski, voluminous book, edited, and so many articles by so many people who interacted ever with Malinowski, like Piddington, Raymond Firth himself, and so many people have written articles on Malinowski only. The name of the book is Man and Culture. That is only about Malinowski. That book is still with me. And when I was MA student, then only I read very extensively that book, you know. So he changed the very concept of participant observation, number one. But R.F. Ellen writes that after Malinowski, until and unless an anthropologist, after doing MA or MSc, whatever it is, until and unless he stayed in an isolated community, at least, I mean, indigenous population, they lived isolated. So until and unless an anthropologist stayed in an isolated community for complete 1 year, he was not to be considered the member of the Guild of Anthropologists. This is what I'm quoting from Ellen's book. Now, it inspired me so much that I told you the other day that I have spent 13 months in the Nicobar archipelago. Why did I? I said, okay, R.F. Ellen says 1 year, that is 12 months, I'll stay one additionally. So I stayed there for my PhD. Altogether 13 months I stayed there. So Malinowski has been, of course, my role model. And I tell you that people think that Malinowski has been forgotten, functionalism has. No. Anybody, I can debate with him that what Malinowski has said about the theory of need, how he has described the theory of need in 4 stages. The first, he says, the permanent series of vital sequence, then comes up with basic need and cultural response, then comes up with the derived need and cultural response, and finally comes the integrative imperative. You know, you read it, you know, that's still, it has got lots of potential in anthropology. I don't know why people are not taking much notice of Malinowski, but he has written something wonderful. His theory of need that explains, that is still, I believe, very, very relevant. Yes. So he's my role model. As far as Frank Boas is concerned, well, he also did a lot of field work there among the Quackwital and in the Alaska and several other. And when I talk about Boas, I consider him definitely another role model because he produced maximum number of internationally acclaimed anthropologists in the world. Frank Boas, why he is called the father, the hero, and the guru of American anthropology. He not only founded the Department of Anthropology, or not only he established the department there, but he produced the maximum number of internationally acclaimed anthropologists in the world. First 3 generations of anthropology after Boas, they were all students and influenced by Boas, and they are called Boasians. If you read, they will be called Boasians. Be it Alfred Kroeber, Margaret Mead, Ruth Benedict, Ruth Bunjel, Linton Gardner, Cora Dubai, all, Golden Weiser, and number, if I remember more than 20, perhaps I will recall the numbers who were trained by Boas. And it is an irony also, let me tell you, that in spite of the fact that the Culture Personality School, I told you Margaret Mead and Ruth Benedict, etc., they all did under work of Boas. Okay. But Boas, it's a line I'm quoting from Marvin Harris, that in spite of that he produced so many number of students and all, Boas, now under quote, failed to establish his school. This is a line in Marvin Harris, very interesting, that Boas failed to establish his school. For example, if you talk about Malinowski, functionalism, Radcliffe Brown, structural functionalism, Claude Lévi-Strauss, structuralism, and Tyler Morgan, etc., evolution, and so many diffusion, etc., etc. But Boas, according to Marvin Harris, failed to establish his school. Well, Boas, why did he fail, or why did he not establish any school of his own? Is for certain valid reasons, because he was of the opinion that an anthropologist, when one goes to the field, he should have no theory, no concept in his mind. He should first of all collect the data, exhaustive amount of data. And then when so many data, so many societies, when compared together, there was a possibility of bringing out certain theory or certain law, etc. So first of all, he believed in doing field work, collecting data, and he has given the concept of cultural relativism. It is Franz Boas' concept. Of course, Boasians, or those who read or study Boas, they have given a label to Boas' contributions in anthropology as historical particularism. Because Boas was dead against, he was an anti-evolutionist of the mid-19th century. He was very anti to the evolutionary, because he simply said, oh, I'm not sharing, how can I share you a view? Gallery. I can only see myself. Hello, can you hear me? Oh. Hello. 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 Yeah. My internet got disconnected. Oh, I see. Because I can see only myself in the screen. I can't see you and I can't hear you also. No problem. I'm just waiting. Okay, no problem. I'm just waiting. No.
One minute, sir.
Never mind. Please do. Okay.
Sir, please continue. Continue, sir.
Yeah, but I can't see you. No problem. Or you can.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yeah, you can see me in the screen. You can see me in the screen. Can you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Fine. Now you see, he is known as the historical particularist because he was anti-evolution. He said that the mid-19th century evolutionism was completely based upon conjecture. All the evolutionist schools, from savagery to barbarism to civilization, and for example, Tyler started from animism to ancestor worship to polytheism to monotheism. This scheme of evolution of religion, or you talk about Morgan, he talked about the family and marriage with regard to the origin of family and marriage. He said that there was primitive communism, sex communism, then came Punaluan, then Sindasmian, then patriarchal, and then finally monogamy. All these schemes, of the evolutionarists of the mid-19th century, they were not based upon field work. They were not based upon empirical work. They were based upon conjecture. Therefore, Boas was very anti. He said, no. If you study a culture, particular culture, you read the particular history of the culture. You know the history from the oral traditions and everything, folk tales, and you build. I know that the indigenous people do not have any script. So you cannot find the documentary history of any indigenous population. But their history is hidden behind their folk tale, folk songs, and all sorts of oral traditions. That is what Boas emphasized upon, that try to know the actual history, particular history of a particular culture. That's why he is known today as historical particularist. Wow. One may ask me, you're talking about the role model. One may ask me that if you so much appreciate and consider Malinowski as your role model, why not Radcliffe Brown? Because Radcliffe Brown was even seen in age. Although both of them were supposed to be contemporary, also one was in Oxford, other was in Cambridge. And simultaneously, they published their book in 1922. Radcliffe Brown published his Andaman Islanders, and Malinowski published his Argonauts of the Western Pacific. Both came in 1922. Although, I tell you, Boas did field work in bracket, if any. It's a very, very dangerous remark I am passing. Believe me, about Radcliffe Brown. He's also one of the founding fathers of the British social anthropology. He is one of the architects of the British social anthropology. Malinowski and Radcliffe Brown both. Still, I'm passing a very, very serious comment that Radcliffe Brown did field work, bracket, if any, question mark, in Andaman Islands for 2 years, 1906 to 1908. Though he published his book in 1922. And in the book he has written that because of the First World War, it was disturbed, so I could not publish. And finally it got in 1922. But there is a term. You must have heard earlier, armchair anthropologist. You have heard about it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm telling you another term, which you might not have heard, but you will find it Argonauts of the Western Pacific, Malinowski's book. He doesn't name Radcliffe Brown. He doesn't name it. But he has coined another term, veranda anthropologist. Veranda, V-E-R-E-N-D-A-S. Earlier, I never understood that why. This veranda anthropologist, what did it mean? Until and unless I went to Ross Island of Andaman. Ross Island. Have you been to Andaman? If ever you go, you must visit the Ross Island. It's a small island, not even 2 square kilometers, at the center of the Port Blair harbor. And in fact, the history of Ross Island is the history of Andaman. It's my word I'm telling you. It's not from any book. History of Ross Island is the history of Andaman. Because the Britishers, as early as in 1857, or even before that, 1790, once tried to make a penal settlement, but that was abandoned after 8 years. And then again in 1857, after the mutiny in India, they wanted to colonize the island with the penal settlers, those convicts, and they stayed in the Ross Island only. And till independence, 1947, Ross Island was the headquarters of the whole of Andaman Nicobar. Chief Commissioner and everybody lived there. All the secretariat was there. Therefore, I say that the history of Ross Island is the history of Andaman, because that was all around surrounded by the water. It's a small island. And in all around the Britishers, sorry, again disconnected. I'm waiting, if you can hear me. Yes.
So, sir, I'm sorry, sir. Again, this fluctuation came, sir.
At least from my side, there is no problem.
Yes, yes.
That's why I'm telling you, if you go there, you find the dilapidated condition, absolutely dilapidated. Only walls are there, and from the walls also big trees have evolved. That was the commissioner's residence and office. A big veranda there. You know, Andaman, I told you the other day that when in 1974, when I went there for my PhD work, at that time, you could see a Jarva once in your lifetime, either you kill them or they will kill you. This was the situation. So you can imagine about, say, 100 years back, what was the situation in Andaman, how hostile the people were there. So with toting guns, all the British, they guarded the entire, and this is how the settlement started there. Now, Radcliffe Brown, in 1903, the Britishers, they first, because Andamanese in south, all the Andaman. So first indigenous people of Andaman, they came in contact with Britishers. They came in contact with were Andamanese. Can I continue? They opened an Andamanese home in Ross Island. In Ross Island, they opened Andamanese home. And Professor Redcliffe Brown couldn't just go to any Andaman village because they were nomadic, they were hunting and gathering people. So he cannot so freely enter into the jungle, into the jungle of Andamans, into the forest of Andaman. There was fear of life. So what happened then in Deputy Commissioner's veranda, some Andamanis from the Andamanese home. Are you listening to me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Some Andamanese, those who lived in the Andamanese home in Ross Island, they were brought before Ratcliffe Brown in the veranda of the chief commissioner, and there he collected all the information and he has written. This hardly anybody knows. Normally people say that from 1906 to 8 he lived in Andaman, but no, he could not live with the Andamanis inside the forest. He could not do the participant observation. Are you hearing me? I can't hear you. Again, there is some disruption in the internet. Is there? But I can see you very well. Should I go on? Now I can see you very well. Was I audible a few minutes before?
No, sir. This internet fluctuations is frequently happening. I don't know. First time this is trouble is coming up. I'm extremely sorry for that inconvenience.
If you can just remind me the last. If you can just remind me because I went on speaking for some time. But anyway, leave it.
You were talking about this the Ross Island, the history of the Nicobar Islands.
Yeah.
How the Britishers.
The history of Andaman is the history of Ireland, or the history of Ross Island is the history of Andaman, because after independence, Ross Island was the headquarters, and every decision about Andaman Nicobar Ross Island, because that was the residence of the chief minister. Can you hear me? Again, I went out of.
Yes, sir. I am able to hear you.
Okay. Now, that is one good reason, because Ratcliffe Brown could not enter into the forest of Andaman and live with the Andamanese, as did Malinowski with the Trobriand Islanders. That is the reason that I don't consider Ratcliffe Brown was a very learned professor. He was expert in framing conceptual terminologies, and he has written beautifully Structure and Function, Primitive Society, Andaman Islanders, and a lot of things, in Australia also he has done some field work, but I never considered him to be my role model, my role model, as you asked me, as far as Indian anthropology is concerned, of LP Vidyarthi has been my role model because of his good teaching. He was a good teacher, no doubt about it. He was not an orator. He was not having some this, that, but then he was a very good teacher, a very good field worker. And he was also committed to the discipline of anthropology. And wherever he lived, whatever he did, he was for anthropology, for nothing else. Of course, there are plus and minus points with everybody, people may differ with me with regard to Vidyarthi, because he became the world president of anthropology. He was the first world president of anthropology from any third world, from 1973 to 1978. He was president of not only the IUAES, that is International Union of Anthropological and Ethnological Sciences, but also of the ICAES, International Congress of Anthropology, both the president, Professor Vidyarthi, from 1973 to 1978, 5 years. And that was the period when I did my, collected my data for PhD and wrote my thesis, and I was awarded my PhD during that very period. That was the zenith period, I say, of Indian anthropology, because in Delhi, still people are like me alive, and you can ask them that how was the 10th International Congress of Anthropological and Ethnological Sciences in Delhi, and the post-plenary sessions were held in all parts of the country, wherever the anthropology departments were there. It was wonderful. I know many of the foreign people also, they have, anthropologists have acknowledged this. That was one of the best organized congresses that had taken place in Delhi in 1978-79. Yes. So he was a very good organizer. I'll also send you My Guru as I Saw Him is the name of the article. I think I have sent you 2-3 articles of mine, which I wanted, probably you would be interested. So I've sent you in the WhatsApp. I'll send this also.
Please, yeah, thank you.
I'll send, because I have very frankly written about everything about Vidyarthi. I've also written that Vidyarthi like was a banyan tree that he gave shelter to all. But people say, I don't say, people accuse Vidyarthi that he was like a banyan tree. He gave shelter to all, but nobody could grow at par him. This sort of thing people say. I'll send you My Guru as I Saw Him. First, it was published in South Asian Anthropologist, and later I published it in my journal also with some modifications and all. That also I'll send you sometime.
So that is very interesting, sir. Just I want to, because of the internet fluctuations, I could not get the key point why you said the Radcliffe Brown, Professor Radcliffe Brown, was you made a statement on him, and would you please repeat it? Sorry.
Yes, Radcliffe Brown, first of all, was a great professor, a great speaker, a great connoisseur of coining terms, in anthropology, social eunomia, social dysnomia. But all these things have been borrowed from Durkheim, I know. He could explain very well. But as far as fieldwork is concerned, in spite of the fact that he lived in Andaman from 1906 to 8, but I know because I have lived in Andaman for quite some time, although after 100 years, no, not 100, but after 50, 60 years after Radcliffe Brown's visit. But I know that in those days, Radcliffe Brown could not go deep. He has written the book Andaman Islanders. Andaman Islanders were so hostile in those days that he could not go deep inside the forest and live with them. So he cannot claim that he was participant of the vision. He did. No. I told you that Andamanese home was there in the Ross Island, where the Andamanese were those who had become docile, those who had come in contact with the Britishers. They were invited to live in the home of Andamanese, free ration, free everything was given to them. So Radcliffe Brown stayed in Ross Island in the bungalow of the chief commissioner, who was the head of the year. And in his veranda, he sat there. Some people, Andamanese, from the Andamanese home were brought before him. And of course, he collected information from them, and he has written a voluminous book, Andaman Islanders. So that exercise of field work that Malinowski did, or Francois did, or even Margaret Mead, or Raymond Firth, or among the newer Evans Pritchard, the way they did field work, I think that was not as intense in Radcliffe Brown. That is one good reason, because anthropology without field work, I consider it to be a big zero. It is so important, field work is in anthropology. That is the backbone. There are other characteristics also, but this fieldwork tradition in anthropology is such a which distinguishes it from any other social science. Although initially in the mid-19th century, there was no fieldwork that was based upon conjecture. They studied the reports of the missionaries, the travelers, the explorers. These all Morgan, Tyler, Fraser, etc. They could be called the armchair anthropologists, okay. But the first organized field work in anthropology was by the Cambridge University, that is called Torres Strait Expedition. The members of that Torres Strait Expedition were W.H.R. Rivers, A.C. Haddon, C.G. Seligman, and probably Westermarck. These stalwarts they went to Torres Strait. And incidentally, I have seen some photographs of the Torres Strait. They are still in Cambridge University. I was attending the World Conference of Anthropology in '98 in America, and they had shown those things, those photographs, 1898, because that was done in 1898-99. Torres Strait Expedition was done in 1898-99. And the 100 years of Torres Strait Expedition was there. So there in USA, they had exhibited them. Anyway, so this is there. Fieldwork is very essential. Without fieldwork, anthropology becomes zero. And today, that is one of the weaknesses, at least of Indian anthropology, I can say. Because even to this day, after I have retired from Allahabad University, a number of my colleagues from Germany, from Denmark, and from Canada, those who have done some work with me, they send their students to me for field work. So many students, when I was in Allahabad University, I used to organize field work, because all together I have done official field works with the batch of the students of the university. I used to go there and stay there for 45 days and then supervise the field work. And unofficially, I don't know how many times, wherever I go, if I find anything, I do field work. I collect information wherever I go, personal level. Other day, I was coming from a district from Jharkhand only, and I saw some people living in tents in a ground, and I just went there, stayed there for 2 hours, collected and took photographs. So that way, wherever I go, I do collect information. Some of my very good articles are there, not in anthropological journal, but in general, news magazines also. One is Kapal Kundala, the fact or fiction. You might not be knowing about Kapal Kundala.
No, sir.
Certainly not. Kapal Kundala is a novel written by Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay, who wrote Vande Mataram. This Vande Mataram has been composed by Bankim Chattopadhyay. He wrote it. And one of his novels is Kapal Kundala, in which human sacrifice was given and all these things. Once I went to Midnapur district in an anthropological conference. I went to Kharagpur, and one of my students who lived in that district, he came to meet me and said, "Sir, please, let's go to the Digha, that is a sea beach nearby. His village is there." Well, I said, "You see, wherever I go, I want to see something on which I can write, I can think something." Then he told me that there is a temple, Kapal Kundala. And I was reminded of the novel of Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay. I knew Kapal Kunda, where human sacrifice tantric or a sannyasi is there, and who gives human sacrifice, and he has a girl at her disposal whose name is Kapal Kundala, and all these things are there. I don't want to go into the details of the novel. But then I said, well, Kapal Kundala is a fiction. Then I came to know that Bankim Chandra was posted there in Daulatpur in West Midnapur district as a magistrate in 1859. All these things I came to know from the library. I went there, lived there for 7 days, collected as much of information as possible. And then I wrote, that is still with me, Kapal Kundala, fact or fiction? Question mark. In fact, Kapal Kundala novel is a fiction. But people of Daulatpur and people of that area, they do not believe that Kapal Kundala was a fiction. It is so much there. It's a very interesting thing. If you say people Kapal Kundala, no, there was Kapal Kundala. This is the temple where human sacrifice was given. They will show me, I have taken the photographs also, show you the source that this was the sannyasi who used to make human sacrifice. All these things are there. Now, I just gave you one example that fieldwork in anthropology is very necessary. And one who does anthropology not merely does a job in anthropology, mind it. I have told you others, doing anthropology is one thing and doing a job in anthropology is one who does anthropology. Wherever he will go, he'll find, he'll observe. In one of my, it's very interesting, which I'm going to tell you. I had a very, very hot debate with a sociologist of Lucknow University. I don't want to name. In one of my books, Dimensions of Researches in Indian Anthropology, I have edited 2 volumes of this book. That is lying here in my almirah. I can show you also. So in that book, in the introduction of the book, I wrote that here are the articles of anthropological nature. All the contributors are not professional anthropologists, but from different professions also, but their article is of anthropological nature. And one line I wrote, to write any article or any book of anthropological nature, one doesn't need a degree in anthropology. These were the lines which I wrote. And one of the professors from Lucknow University reacted in a journal. He reviewed the book. He reacted in the journal that that volume is very good, very informative, this, that, but he did not agree with this statement that to write an article or book of anthropological nature, Dr. S.Sahay says that one doesn't need a degree or training in anthropology. I don't agree, because anthropology is a science, it's this and that, all sermons he gave in that. I responded to him. It ensued a debate between me and him, Eastern anthropologists versus Oriental anthropologists. And on my letter, they had to consult Bina Srivastava that, look, this is letter should be published or not. Because I wrote, every human being has the potential to become an anthropologist. Because after all, what anthropology is it merely getting a degree of BA, honors, MA, PhD in anthropology? No. Anthropology, in fact, is, what does an anthropologist do? He studies the other's culture. He studies the other's culture. So there is always a genuine curiosity, inquisitiveness in everybody to know about others' culture. Dr. Pedarattaiah, I tell you, if I tell you about Richard Lee or about Laura Bohannon, Richard Lee's essay, Eating Christmas in Kalahari, that is very much available in the internet. You just put it, Eating Christmas in Kalahari. Or you read Laura Bohannon's Shakespeare in the Bush. The title seemed to be very, very peculiar. Eating Christmas in Kalahari, Shakespeare in the Bush. One by Richard Lee, another by Laura Bohannon. If I tell their fieldwork experience about the Kung of South Africa and about the Tiv of North Africa, among the Tiv, Laura Bohannon has done, and among the Kung, Richard Lee has done. Anybody would be interested to listen to. Anybody would be interested to listen to. If I tell you very simply, that among the Kung society, if a man is dying of starvation, you provide him food and water and everything, he survives. Okay? He won't thank you. Instead, he will condemn you. Maybe he abuses you also. Is not it surprising? In our society, even if somebody offers me a glass of water or a cup of tea, we politely thank him. Thank you. Thank you. Okay? The Kungs don't ever thank. Instead, they condemn. They insult the one who provides the food. But if you try to understand it anthropologically, I'm not going into detail, I can prove it. If you'll say, yes, that is what they do and that is right. The ecological condition, the food scarcity among the Kungs is such where group survival is more important than the individual survival. And a lot of explanations I can give you for more than half an hour, 45 minutes, I can tell you about the Kung only. But the Kungs also do right in their way, and likewise, the values of the Kungs differ from our values. Here comes the role of cultural relativism. You have to examine their values in their perspective and you will justify. So these are very interesting things. So anthropology, none of the founding fathers of anthropology had ever studied anthropology. Even I told you the other day, Rai Bahadur Sharad Chandra Roy, the father of Indian ethnography, he also never studied anthropology. But they have written voluminous books and monumental books, landmark books, they have written all these. So what is there? That you try to know about the other's culture, and everybody has that genuine inquisitiveness to know about other cultures. Okay? Here lies the potential of anthropology, which everybody has, that potential. Everybody has. So if you have that potential, you can also write any article or any book of anthropological nature. No need to have a degree. That's what my argument is. Anyway,
that's very emphatic statement, and thank you so much, sir. Because people who have potential and people who think differently and who are able to draw insights from the lifestyles of the people, they can really analyze and write things. This gives impetus for people who are capable of that, sir. Sir, I want to know about your training. How many anthropologists you have trained under your supervisionship, and how many people have obtained PhDs, and how diverse they are, kind of thing.
Right. Certainly, how many people I have trained, it's I've never attempted to count it because for so many, almost 40 years in my teaching experience, first in Ranchi University and then in Allahabad University. For 15 years in Ranchi and then 25 years in Allahabad, almost 40 years. And even before that, even when I was a student, all my contemporaries, juniors, and some of the seniors also, when they faced any problem to understand, they used to come to me. So this way, people, every year, so many students have been trained. But as far as PhD is concerned, altogether 19 PhDs were awarded, number one. But let me tell you, just double the number, I might have guided the PhDs of others also. In this respect, I have been very liberal, very liberal. Anybody who has ever come to me, I take good interest in their work. Although 26 or 27 were registered, but some of them left, anthropology, they got some job, they went. So that 19, and out of that 19, I suppose more than 14 are occupying teaching occupations in different universities in Uttar Pradesh, and somebody in your Madurai also. There is some Gandhi in Madurai, South India. There is a Central University Gandhi, something I don't remember exactly the name. Anjali Chandra is there. My student is there. She has done doctorate also under me, and she is now associate professor probably. So even in South and in different parts of the country. More importantly, I was in Allahabad. Allahabad is known as Officers University. Very interesting. Officers University, because if you make a list of the IAS officers, still I can say with very, very much confidence, maximum number of any university you will find from Allahabad. Nowadays, it has deteriorated. I think you might know that my daughter is an IAS topper also. And she studied in Allahabad University, later in JNU. So Allahabad has been famous. There people, let's say more than 130, 40 years old university. And right from the beginning, it was producing so many ICS and IAS and all these things. So it has a reputation. And all-round degradation has taken place. So that way, Allahabad also has degraded to a great extent. I know. Even when I went there and now I see and I hear about Allahabad University, I wonder that how such degradation has taken place. That's a different thing. From my department of anthropology, there are several IAS, IPS, and all these things. So once a very senior professor of anthropology who is retired, I don't want to give him name, he was in one of the central universities of Chhattisgarh. That means Guru Ghasidas University, that is a central university. Now he's retired. He met me in a conference and we were talking about such things. Then I said that, look, the market of anthropology in the country is very poor. Very poor. If you do anthropology, PhD, etc., hardly you can become a school teacher also. So we produce officers anthropologists come officers. And we have produced so many. I'll have to count one by one. Siddharth is there in Assam, who is IAS, did my PhD under me. DP in Tamil Nadu, DP Yadav, Dharmendra Pratap Yadav, you inquire about his senior now, he must be at the secretary rank, he is my student. Vijay Rao was in Tamil Nadu, he's my, so many, in different parts of the country. And they're all still in touch with me. So that way I've never assessed myself that how many, but then a lot of officers, a lot of lecturers, now they are then they have done it, One more thing I would like to say in this regard, that I have always some reservations in the department for limited number of seats. Anthropology, there was once a very hot discussion with me and our Vice Chancellor. At the behest of, or at the pressure of the student union and student leaders and all, they wanted to take admission in anthropology. The Vice Chancellor, they influenced the Vice Chancellor. They wanted to enhance the seat in MMSc in anthropology. I said, no, I cannot. As the head of the department, I will not allow more students to be admitted in anthropology. They went to the Vice Chancellor. Vice Chancellor requested me to come. I went there. He asked me, he told me, look, sir, you are head of the institution. At your own will, you can tell me to extend. If you want the recommendation of the head, in the interest of the department, I won't ever approve. He said, why? Anthropology, I told the Vice Chancellor, is a subject not for every Tom, Dick, and Harry. This is the word I had told him. It's a special framework of mind. It is not just like sociology, history, political science, public administration, Hindi or English or philosophy, that you may admit hundreds and hundreds of students, Anthropology requires a training, practical, biological anthropology practical, prehistoric anthropology practical, and more than that, a good training of field work. And if we admit 100, 200 students in our department, where shall I take them for the field? That will be a mockery. No village will give me a place to stay there. If I go with the 200 or 100 students, So anthropology is a special framework of mind. So everyone cannot do it. So it's only those who can bear all these things, they should be encouraged to do anthropology. It's not sociology or history or political science or public administration. Anyway, your next question, please.
Generally, when choosing the research problem, do you encourage your scholars to come forward with their own problem, or do you suggest, sir?
That's a very interesting question. Yes. Any student, whenever comes to me, I ask him, on what topic you want to do. I listen to him very carefully. If I find it suitable, I do the same thing. You do the same thing. And that's how I supervise. Some people said, no, sorry, you suggest me topic. Both the examples I will give you. Only 2 examples I'll give you. You'll be surprised to know one work which is a very fine work, and that's the only work, PhD work under me, which has been written in Hindi. In Hindi. Why? A student of mine, Dr. Sanjay Dwivedi, his name is, he has done the PhD now in Allahabad. He was attending the class and I found that he was very, very good at Hindi literature and language. Whatever he wrote in Hindi, it was very good. His English was poor, but he was also topper of his batch also. He came to me and discussed with me. Then I told him that your language is so good. Why not you do a work on anthropology of literature? Anthropology of literature. Then he asked me what it is. I told him, this is what is meant by anthropology of literature. You select a novelist, one novelist only, and select one of his novels which you consider best and try to discover anthropological elements in the characters, in the plot, in the writing. You must have heard the name of Munshi Prem Chand in Hindi. Prem Chand.
Very famous name.
Very famous. I mean, he's supposed to be Upanyaskar Samrat. That means the best novelist in Hindi. Very famous. Very famous. I mean, the on top, Prem Chand. His novel is Godan. I told him, okay, a voluminous novel. So what I meant was that a successful novelist like in Bangla, Sharat Chand Chattopadhyay, like in Hindi, Prem Chand, and many others are there. I don't want to go into the details, So in their writing, without any training in anthropology, without training in sociology, such writers have all the potential of sociology and anthropology in them. They so nicely, are you hearing me? They so nicely, they understand that I told him the topic was, in English it was anthropological elements in the writings of Prem Chand with his special reference to Godan novel.
Wow.
Try to discover the anthropological elements there. So that is a wonderful, it has been so widely, now even in Hindi literature, people invite him to give talks, and book is also going to be published very shortly. In Hindi, we call it प्रेम चंद की कृतियों में मानव शास्त्रीय तत्व means anthropological elements in the writings of Prem Chand with a special reference to Godan. That's a wonderful work. Likewise, another man came, Neeraj Thakur. He said, no, sir, you have to select a topic for me. Then I just asked him so many questions. Will you be able to do so intensive a work, which I will assign? Because in 1984, an idea in my mind had come. Munda and their Kili. Kili means clan. The clan system of Munda is a wonderful example of social organization vis-a-vis territorial organization. It came as early as in 1984. But I was in Allahabad. I had to do field work in Jharkhand in the Munda tribe area. So it had not taken off. Then I told him, okay, if you ask me a good topic, I can give you my topic on which I want to work. Will you work? He said, okay. I gave him title, Munda and their Kilis, in bracket, Kili. Kili means clan. Munda and their Kilis, an inquiry into the social organization vis-a-vis territorial organization. Well, he came here, did field work, but not up to my expectation. Not up to my expectation. My agreement with him was that if you do it successfully, we will publish with joint names, Vijay Sahay and Neeraj Thakur. Then after 2 years or 2.5 years, his father also came. Professor Sahay, we want him to do early PhD because he should now get a job. I said, look, okay. I told him, submit your thesis. He said, he got his PhD. One examiner was Kamalkant Mishra. Another was Vinay Srivastava. He got his PhD. After PhD, his thesis is still lying with me. He said, sir, look, I am not going to publish it. because I'm satisfied only 40% with your work. Rest 60%, I'm going to Jharkhand. I will go do, I will add your name also as an author. That's a different thing. That's my commitment. But let me first personally go and do some field work, and then I'll. So that way, I have always enjoyed. And one last thing with regard to the PhD students, I tell you, I'll give you the list of my own. You will find no two similar topics. Because what happens generally, I have seen with many professors that if they have done a work on the same theme, they will continue to get work done by others also under their supervision. That I have seen. I don't want to give you the examples. That's not. But in my, all the 19 topics are absolutely poles apart. For example, one is anthropology of literature. Another is anthropology of organizational behavior and I mean, a girl is there, Priya Srivastava. She had a diploma degree in business management. So that way her topic was from that day. We took one public sector, another private sector, compared it, the work culture and everything. Is a beautiful work. ICSSR is financing for publication of it. One student has done wildlife vis-a-vis tribal life. That's a different aspect. Likewise, if I remember all topics, I mean, such, that you can't say that only the first PhD under me was on nature, man, spirit complex, which I did. Otherwise, all the rest, different. So that's I enjoy new topic, new thing, new insight it gives you, new food for thought it gives you. That is what is research. That is what is research. Not that just I've done nature, man, spirit complex. Come on, anybody do nature, man, spirit work in that community, nature, man, spirit that community. That way easily the PhD can be obtained. But why the poor quality of research, poor quality of teaching today in India? That is the result of, its result is that Indian anthropology has so far not been able to make a place in world anthropology. That is what I feel. And I told you that about the status of Indian anthropology. I have a very pessimistic opinion till now. Anyway, please.
Sir, you told that anthropology is different from philosophy. Anthropology is different from sociology. And what are the fundamental and unique differences that you can list between sociology and anthropology?
Right. Sociology. Sociology is the product of Industrial Revolution. When Industrial Revolution took place in Europe, factories were there, labors were there, ghettos started being constructed, and the life in the ghetto are problemsome. And those who studied the problems of the labor class, and this is how gradually sociology started to come. Have you ever heard any sociologist studying a primitive community or indigenous or tribal community, what you call, or say no? Because the very methodology of sociology is different. They are mostly concerned with the urban society and the literate society and all industrial society. You name any sociologist, because in India, there is a double standard also. I don't want to name, I must not name some big names. Because when they saw, when they are among the sociologists, they will become a sociologist. And when they are among the anthropologists, they will become anthropologists. Some big names in India are there. I'm not like, I'm simply an anthropologist and an anthropologist alone and nothing else. I have no business with sociology, simply. So the method of sociology is different than anthropology. Number one, and the scope, let me tell you. Sociologist studies society, one aspect of man, that is social. And in that also, not all men, only such societies which are industrialized, urbanized, and all. You know. Now, perhaps some peasant societies are also being studied by them, but they study that only. Anthropology studies man, all aspects of man, of all time and space. So in comparison to anthropology, sociology is a tiny thing. The sociologists, if they hear it from me, they will perhaps shoot me. To be very, they won't tolerate my comment, you know. I know it very well. But my argument is, anthropology studies man of all aspects of all time and space. Sociology studies one aspect of man, that is social, and not of all men, but those who are urbanized, industrialized, literate. They use questionnaire. That can be applied only with the literate people. Okay, those who are not, they may use a schedule also. But then largely questionnaire. Make a questionnaire, 300, apply it, bring it to the computer. Today, put it in the SPSS data, find out the solution and graph and chart and table and percentage, put it, and that is their research. No. Anthropology has a different thing. You have to live with the people there. You have to understand them. You have to maintain the cultural relativism, as said by Frank Boas. You have to try to empathize with the people, as said by Malinowski. You have to try to enter into the head of the native, as proposed by the new ethnographers, cognitive anthropology, symbolic anthropology, ethnoscience. And then if you come up, you'll surely be different than any sociological studies based upon questionnaire or man, quasi-participant, you know. Real participation, participant observation, I don't suppose that the sociologists do. That way, anthropology, well, the number of sociologists are greater. I'll send you. This issue carries editorial of mine, the latest one.
There is some the call coming, and because of the internet fluctuations, I have taken the internet connection from my phone. So some call came and the disruption came. So sorry for the inconvenience. You are telling the difference between sociology and anthropology, and it's very interesting points. So please go ahead, sir.
And I'm repeating them. I don't know whether the same thing I'll be able to repeat or not. But first of all, remember this, the scope. You know, I told you, sociology studies only one aspect of man, that is social aspect of man. And in that also they have a limitation. They will not study any indigenous society. They will not study any simple society. They will study only the urban society, the industrial society, and if possible, only the literate society who can answer their questionnaire. On the contrary, anthropology studies all societies of all time and space. Whether it is literate, urban, central, industrial, no, it doesn't matter for anthropology. There has to be society. Number one, he does participant observation. I told you how serious it is to do participant observation. I told you that it is not merely just to spend some time with the people and say that I've done participation. No. Participant observation is living the life of the native. That is participant observation. Anthropologist, while in the field, according to Boaz, what he has said, maintains the cultural relativism and then collects the data. Malinowski is empathizing with the people. He tries to empathize with the people by living with them. And the new ethnography, like ethnography and the cognitive anthropology, ethnoscience and all, semantic analysis, symbolic anthropology, a lot of sub-schools are there in new ethnography. What they try to enter into the head of the native, that how this mental process of the native work. They try to peep inside that. So deep study of a society is done by anthropologists. Do the sociologists do? No, certainly not. Certainly not. They have a schedule or a questionnaire, they go. I told you that they just get it filled up. Either they fill themselves or it is filled up by the others. And today you have SPSS, some software is there. Put them into the computer, make the table, chart, graph, this graph, that graph, everything is ready, percentage is ready, and you just publish the response in percentage of your informants, and that becomes a piece of research in sociology. That is not anthropology, certainly not. Certainly not. And I have experienced in my old field in Nicobar Islands.
So you say that there is a remarkable differences in the methodology in the field of and the scope also. It is
at the same time, I must add that anthropologists, if you have, you can say, invented or discovered or proposed only one method of data collection, that is by W.H.R. River's genealogical table method. That has been, otherwise all the things have been borrowed from sociology. Observation, interview, questionnaire, schedule, basically they have been borrowed from sociology. But the application of these things by anthropologists is very deep, very far-reaching. It has far-reaching consequences also. It is not, if I can use the term, shallow participation, very intensive participation in fieldwork by anthropologists. That sociologists hardly do. And I told you that, have you ever heard any sociologists to study the Jarvas, the Centenaries, the Shompen, the Munda, the Orang, the Chenchu? No sociologist would bother to go there. They don't have any business because they are not urbanized, they are not literate, they are not industrialized societies. Sociologists have got no business with it. On the hand, it is true. Why I'm telling you that a recent webinar was there a few months back. I was attending, and in that, even now I find some anthropologists also very much complaining against sociology. There is one in the South India itself, I wouldn't name because they are all well-known anthropologists. He's very dead against no anthropology should be there, no sociology, this, that. I don't indulge in such things, I don't indulge. Sociology has their own field, we have our own field. And some anthropologists from Delhi, they sometimes complain that sociologists have reach with the government. The government takes care of the sociologists and listens to them. They don't listen to anthropology. It's none of my business. They also say there are so many organizations and strong organization of sociology than anthropologists. I said, what of that? You make your organization effective. No. That's a different thing because in all the colleges, sociology is taught, anthropology is not taught. Then I say anthropology is not for everybody. It is a special framework of mind. Don't bother about it. But if you do genuine research and good research, anthropology, World Bank has been giving a lot of importance to anthropology now. If government of India is not giving, it's the fault of the government of India, not anthropologists. Of course, anthropologists are to be blamed because today very poor teaching and research is being done in all the universities. Yes, that's a problem. That's a sad problem of Indian anthropology. I can't say anything about the outside of India, but I must have examined the PhD thesis and field reports of all the university departments where anthropology is taught, be it Delhi, Hyderabad, this, that, I don't find, I don't know why people do not want to live the life of the native. They do not want to live the life of the native. In that book, Experiencing Anthropology, one chapter is living the life of a non-Korean. Non-Korea is an island. I stayed there for about, say, 5.5 months. So I have a separate chapter, living the life of a non-Korean. So anthropology is very deep, Dr. Pedarattaiah. It's a very deep thing. It is a dedication to do anthropology, And, if you do a real good work in anthropology, it will have reflections, I think, throughout your personality and throughout your life also. Because I have written in one of my articles, writing ethnography, a concern of mind or heart and soul. This also, if I have uttered, I'll send it to you. Writing ethnography, a concern of mind or heart and soul. Because anthropology should be written by the soul, not really only by mind,
So that is a powerful statement, sir.
Yeah, I'll send you today, most probably I'll send you or tomorrow. That article, you read it. It has been prescribed in South Africa, KwaZulu-Natal University as an compulsory reading, writing ethnography, a concern of mind or heart and soul that I have written.
These are the tough words to differentiate. People find all the time difficult to, what is the difference between soul and mind, soul and heart kind of thing. So
This mind means, every discipline has its own rules and regulations. Anthropology also has. Mind or soul, that's what I'm saying. See.
Oh, you mean intellectual faculties?
I mean, see, in literature also, if you write a sonnet, 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 it has to be 14 lines, it has to be such and such. Likewise, in literature also, if you are doing anything, okay, there are certain steps through which you have to, I call it ethnographic canons, CANON, canon.
Okay.
So, anthropological or ethnographic canons, you have to go beyond that. You have to go beyond that by heart. It is all manifestation of empathizing with the people or entering into the head of the native and maintaining cultural relativism. This signifies the same thing. This manifests the same thing. But not merely that, okay, this is table and this is graph and this is my research. No, go something beyond that. Go something beyond that. And everybody can go.
One can understand what is heart means, the feelings, emotions, and empathizing with them, with the native. That part we can understand. But how do you define soul? That is a very tough thing.
Soul, I mean, you have to, well, okay. See, anthropologists, I told you the other day, are an intruder in a society.
Yeah, you told me.
Yes. They are unwanted there. People are busy in their own daily life and humdrum of life, and you go there all on a sudden and start asking a question, tell me I have come for this. So you are an intruder in that society. Somehow you gradually develop your rapport and gain the confidence of the people there. Your responsibilities. It is the responsibility of anthropologists to report about them with humility, with sincerity. It is there. That unless you understand them by your heart/soul, I have written. Heart/soul. I'll send you the thing. You will find.
Okay.
Ethnography is a matter of mind or heart/soul.
Okay.
So anthropology has to be written by heart. You feel that. And then you write. Oh, I was in the island of Chora. One fine morning, I find the entire island in silence. Otherwise, since morning, the children shouting and yeah, women's house, everybody talking. This humming, I used to listen every day, but I got down from my hut and I found nobody is talking. People moving around and hands folded at the back. If at all talking, then whispering in the ear something. I was wondering, my interpreter was there. His name was Abednego. I asked him, what is the matter? People are not talking, not shouting. And then my interpreter, he was a Christian. He shouted very much and said, oh, these are fool people, they are pagan, they are believers, they believe in ghosts and this and that. I tell them not to believe these things and that thing, all the. They think that if they make a sound in the island today, the devil in the island, the spirit in the island will become angry and will cause death and disease. They are foolish, they are doing so and so. In the meantime, an old lady came. I've written in my book also, given the example. I've written in my book. She whispered something in the ears of my interpreter, Abednego. She whispered in Nicobarese language. I didn't understand. But I saw that Abednego again became furious and he started scolding the lady that she disappeared from there. I asked him, Abednego, what did she say? She was telling me not to make any sound, not to shout. Okay. Now, at this moment, I found for the first time the contradictions in the life of an anthropologist. On the one hand, as an anthropologist, I was empathizing with the old lady. They had their belief. It may be superstition, but they believe in it. And an anthropologist respects the belief of anybody, any people. It is their belief. I must respect them. And I must do the Romans, what a Roman does in Rome. At the same time, and I was a little bit annoyed that why Abednego is shouting and scaring people, because Abednego was more powerful in every respect that I'm not going to discuss now, how he was more powerful. That's another thing. Again, anthropological thing is there. But should we let these Chavarians remain at the same level of development, at the same level of superstition, at the same? No. This answer to this day I haven't got. And it is always contradiction with an anthropologist. He goes anywhere, he sees something and he empathizes with the people there. He respects the others' belief, be it superstition or whatever it is. It is their belief. Okay? But should anthropologists, I mean, should we leave the people to live like that only? Or they also should be exposed to the outside world and they also should participate in the development of everything? This is a contradiction there. So anthropology is a very deep thing, you know. My conception is, because if I do, if I talk to any of my informants, and even now I know that I'll be doing some very, very serious field work again at this very age. No problem, I'll be doing. So I just try to go deep inside the things, you know, and try to understand. These things are not done by other social scientists. You know. So anthropology is different. It's a framework. I simply, it is a framework of mind. It is not merely a syllabus, you pass out examination. And no, you have to have a special framework of mind to understand other people. Okay.
So thank you for clarifying the differences between sociology and anthropology, and also understanding the. Yeah, I would like to read your article, sir, on ethnographers writing.
I will certainly.
So, being a senior anthropologist, who traveled across the country from north to south and east to west, and exposed to the senior anthropologists of the country, and who is passionate about studying humans in India. And have you ever heard of a human sacrifice in any tribal community in India? The practice of human sacrifice.
Yes, not as community, we should not say. I don't suppose sometime we have heard about the Nagas people, you know, they used to headhunters, you know, long back, even before, much long before at Barrier Elvin or Hemmendorf studied them. We have some literature. But one thing I'll say, yes, in Jharkhand itself, not a particular community, but all the tribal communities, let me use this term, because tribe is also a term to be understood in proper perspective. Head hunting was there. And even to this day, sometime, you'll find head hunting, especially during the paddy season. Every now and then, even now, sometimes the news comes. That is, here in Urao language or in the tribal language, it is called Otanga. Otanga. Otanga.
Means what exactly that meanings?
That if before they are going to sow their seeds of paddy,
okay,
they make a human sacrifice, mix the blood, and they think that productive will be increased by this. And this has, yeah.
That agricultural yield will be multiplied if that human sacrifice is done.
Will increase. Yes, right. So with this belief, I remember in my early childhood, we were scared to go to some places, you know, in the interior areas during the, right these days, you know, monsoon is there. Before the monsoon, especially in the summer season, when the tilling of the land starts and they collect the seeds and all. So that time we were also scared, and we every now and then heard that somebody was killed, he was found killed. Who killed them? That Otanga killed them. This was a common feature about 50, 60 years, even before 50, 60 years before. And there is no surprise that even now from any corner of Jharkhand, you may hear in the newspaper that Otanga killed someone, you know. I remember once in a rural area, I was walking alone and somebody warned me, don't go there. They will kill you. He talked to me in his language. I remember his sentence also. Na jao batte pujma. Pujma means you will be slaughtered. puja, the worship, the slaughter for worship, they will
Oh,
puja. This pujba means not cutting only. Pujba means for puja. They will
okay.
slaughter you. I remember, and I didn't go that side. That when I was in undergraduate department, when I had been there to the now Gumla district is called, there I'm talking about. So it was a common thing. But cannibalism has not been reported as a community. And I don't say that any particular community practices Otenga, It is the tribal people who believe that if they do such and such things, see, witchcraft. Witchcraft is not a particular community. In any community, it can be. Likewise, in any community who believe that if they give a human sacrifice, the yield in the field will be better in that case. Again, there is. Yes.
Oh, yeah, that is a very bold confession and observation. And
No, we cannot say any particular community does it. No. It is done by so many. Jharkhand has got 32 tribal groups, and in every tribal group, if such people are still believing, then they do human sacrifice. But any particular community cannot be blamed.
During my MA field work, we went to the study Kondareddy people group in Ramchandrapuram Mandal, East Godavari district. So we stayed there for 20 days. And when I was intimately spending time with the people, they secretly told me, yearly once one person will be offered for this paddy high yielding to increase the.
Here in Jharkhand also.
That the police and government, they try to control it, and the rotation basis. This year, your family should bring one person. The next year, another person. That kind of, so suddenly government found many skulls and what is this? And then they arrested and they counseled them. But if they don't want to offer their family member, they should bring some outsider. If there's some utensil seller,
even the family members are given for sacrifice.
Yeah, if they don't want, so they have to catch some outsider from and preserve him for the auspicious day. Till that day, they will not sacrifice him. And
it's a very, very striking thing. Sometimes if I come to the south, I would like to know where it is so, and I would like to get some more information from you. Because if it is in this 21st century, if this belief still persists, it is a great importance to know for any anthropologist. And I request you sometime to write it, and let's publish.
I wrote in my MA this field dissertation, that brief. So my department gave me first mark, class topper.
Right.
So I did a very intimate the inquiries, and so they told, don't tell anybody.
If possible, then try to verify yourself and re-verify, or send somebody to get it verified, because it's a very, very strange. I mean, here in Ranchi, day before yesterday, or probably yesterday, I was looking at 2 small children were sacrificed by some, witch doctor, in order to gain some more power and this, that, I don't know whether tantric, this word, in Buddhism. So some tantric, yesterday probably, even now I can go and bring the paper. He's been arrested by the police, just hardly 160 kilometers from Ranchi. So these things are there, still people do such things, but then that is something different than, because in our place, what we have heard about Otenga, own family member is not given for sacrifice. It is always the outsider who has to be killed. Here, in this part. But there is, this is a significant, this is a very, very important thing to know.
Police tried their best to counsel them, but it is they told, please don't tell anybody. It is a secret thing, kind of very confidential thing. But anthropologists, they go deeper,
Yeah.
and they come to know, they encounter the soul of the community, and they go for thick description and explanation.
Yeah.
That's what makes the difference.
Thick description, Clifford Geertz. Have you read that deep play? Thick
Not yet, sir.
must read. This thick description is very much incorporated in anthropology, and especially Clifford Geertz has written a beautiful essay, more than 40, 60 pages, you know. The name of the essay is Deep Play, Cockfight among the Balinese, Bali Island, Indonesia. There is one island, Bali Island. So there,
No.
that's thick description.
So, sir, I just want to ask you, out of curiosity, is the functionalism taught by anthropologists and the functionalism taught by sociologists the same thing, or do you find any different connotations or streams of thought?
Unfortunately, I have not seen any book on functionalism because functionalists are there in sociologists also. Perhaps Merton and some. But I have so far very deeply studied functionalism of Malinowski. I can talk about him, and if I have not taken any interest in what sociologists think about functionalism, it's just because I never took any interest, you know.
Okay.
So until and unless an academic interest is generated, you know, I don't bother to know. Anthropology is my I sometimes used to say that anthropology runs into my blood. Anyway, since I've never been, sociologists will believe me, they will shoot me if they know my opinion about sociology, you know, and through your interview, probably some people will know also. Because I always considered sociology, home science, philosophy, Sanskrit, these subjects just like second-class citizens, you know. Number one, and these subjects are made for only ladies.
Oh, made for ladies.
Because, I mean, in our time, we used to see sociology only women, everybody taking sociology, everybody taking, all the girls, you know, they are in philosophy, all the girls in sociology, all the girls in Sanskrit. So these subjects, you know, they were, we used to consider as if in the university second-class citizen. English, anthropology, history, political science, geography, economics, all these things are real subjects, and these are for the girls, you know. This is what our bad conception was there. So sociology, I don't feel ever to take any interest in sociology. I don't ever feel. I have no grudge. There are sociologists, very eminent sociologists in the country, and they are in high demand in the government also. I know. But that doesn't bother. Well, I told you that I'm a very simply anthropology. I do what I can, and I have no, I mean, I do not for any money, not for any name, or not. It gives me satisfaction. In Sanskrit, there is a beautiful Swantah Sukhaya. Swantah Sukhaya. Swa means self. Sukh means happiness. So it makes me happy if I do some anthropology, I don't have any competition with any other subject also, not with the anthropologist also. I don't have any competition with any anthropologist also. Let them uh, compete with each other. I have no competition with anybody, but I try to do, and I will continue to do, I have to do a lot of anthropology now. So many books are there in my here, and I'll give them a concrete shape one day. Yeah. For example, Munda and their Kilis, from island to highland, the Andaman blunders, anthropology of the Buddha, and of course, a book on Indian anthropology also, not the syllabus book, the status of Indian anthropology. Yesterday, only an anthropologist from Delhi, he asked me that he wanted to talk to me with regard to the status of Indian anthropology. I said, okay, you talk to me day after tomorrow, I may talk. And because I told you that I'm pessimistic. Why? Why? Because of the poor teaching and poor research, first of all. Today, so much facilities are, technological advancement are there. You can collect huge amount of data within limited period, but still people shun off doing field work, number one. And as soon as I get PhD, this, that, So I have examined, I don't know how many theses, not only in anthropology, but, I was for 13 years head of sociology also in Allahabad University, although I have no business with sociology. But then sociology department was being headed by anthropology. When I became head, I also became the head of sociology. But now there is a separate department of sociology in Allahabad University. Then it was not. It has been recent. I had little interest in sociology. Yeah, of course, I had to organize board of studies. I had to organize paper setters and all these things. Official work I used to do. But sociology, I never taught. Sociologists,
Sir,
Uh,
oh, yeah, please continue. Or should I ask? Yeah.
hmm.
Um,
Just let me.
yes, please.
Uh, uh, what I was going to say, I just forgot. Uh, Today, there is a department of sociology, and sociology is there, but it never interested me because I considered that doing sociology, doing anthropology is a very tough job. Doing anthropology is a very tough job. Okay, you have to have special. Doing sociology is very simple and shallow. This is my opinion. Anthropologists won't like me. They would would like to charge a volley of fire upon me that what this man is saying. That's a different thing. But I don't bother. And once again, I remind you, there are anthropologists. Some of them are no more today. Some of them are still perhaps today. Among the sociologists, they will become sociologist and a sociologist, Indian sociologist. And among the anthropologists, they'll say, I'm Indian anthropologist. This dual citizenship, no, I don't have. I'm simply one, that is anthropology. Asking me some.
Sir, regarding the theories, how do you see the theories contributed by anthropologists? They are theories of culture or theories of society, or both? How do you see?
See, society and culture, we cannot differentiate. They are complementary to each other. Every society has a culture. If it is a human society, if it is a subhuman or any other animal, they are also social animal. Animals are also social, we know, see the discovery. A lot of animals and birds who live in groups, they are also social. But anthropologists, human being, where there is a society of human being, they have a culture. The other day also I was saying this thing, without any culture, there cannot be a society of a human society. It will be subhuman or something like that, because man and man alone can acquire culture. No other animal. And certainly because of certain crucial physical characteristic, man is able to acquire culture, and no other animal can acquire culture. In this, the biological aspect of man is more important, not the social. Cultural aspect, culture is absolutely, because of the biological aspect of man, opposable thumb first, erect posture, because of the linea aspera in the posterior aspect of femur bone. This femur bone we have, in the posterior aspect, there is a ridge, which is called linea aspera. Our muscles are attached with the linea aspera in such a way that we stand erect. This has been responsible. Two more. Articulation of language. Other animals can make sound. From their glottal sound they can make. The tigers can roar, the crow can crow, the dogs can bark. Sound they can make. But like human being, thousands of languages in which we communicate. That is because of the articulation of language. And its articulation of language is also possible because of here in the lower jaw mandible, there is a pointed, in the posterior aspect of the mandible, pointed bone, which is known as genial tubercle. Our tongue is associated with the genial tubercle in such a way, because when we speak any language, our tongue, lips, and teeth, these are the three things which interplay. A, B, C, D, Tamil, Urdu, Hindi, Bangla, whatever we call it. That is because of the interplay of the lips, teeth, and the tongue. And linea aspera is there. And last but not the least, development of cerebral cortex in human head. Well, development of cerebral cortex, that doesn't mean that the big head has got any big brain, no. Cerebral cortex is the cranium where the brain is preserved. The cranium capacity of man is more than any other. The elephants have a big head, but cranium capacity is not as much as man has. Man has about 1800 cc, cubic centimeters, from 1000 to 1800 cubic centimeter. Man's cranium capacity is there. Now this cranium capacity, now this gives us power of retention. A 90 to 98-year man, you can ask him that how was things 90 or 92 years back. He'll remember his house, he'll remember his everything. So this power of retention, so this power of, all these things are, so equipped with these four crucial characteristics. Is your internet working properly now? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So this crucial physical opposable thumb, erect posture, articulation of language, and development of cerebral cortex. Man and man alone is able to exploit the ecological condition around him for his survival and for his comfort. What others animals do, what do? They simply adjust in the environment. But what man does, he exploits the ecological condition, and other animals only adjust in different ecologies. They don't have culture because they are not equipped with these crucial physical characteristics. Okay, man and man alone can acquire. So wherever a human society is, maybe they are walking naked, maybe they have no, lowest level of technology, but they have a culture because they're human society. They're exploiting the ecological condition around, and that is the sum total is the material culture or the non-material cultures. So culture and society cannot be segregated. Human society has a culture, number one. This was the first part of your culture question. Can you just remind me of the second part with regard to anthropological theory? Social cultural theory or social theory or cultural theory, isn't it? Well, sociologists study society, anthropologists study culture of the society only. And I told you that any cultural theory will be applicable to any society also. Because so we should not differentiate as such. But the difference between sociology, you can say, or anthropology is that anthropologist theories are very deeply researched. And then they make any cultural theory. Because, Tyler said culturology. Leslie White said it should be named as culturology. Anthropology should be referred to as culturology. This is what the opinion of Tyler, number one. And then comes Leslie White. Leslie White, American anthropologist. He also said that it should be termed as culturology. Anyway, it is not in use. It is only anthropology that we use, but at least they are written. During the time of Tyler, anthropology was referred to as, under quote, Mr. Tyler's science. Mr. Tyler's science. So I may not be interested to speak anything about sociology or on behalf of sociology. Dr. Pedarattaiah, you ask me my subject, that is because sociology, despite being for 13 years as its head and organizing their examinations and this and that, some of my very good friends are in sociology, some of my sociology, not sociology and anthropology, both, like BHU Benares in the university, Dr. P.C. Joshi is there, one of A.L. Srivastava was there, then some Muslim fellow is there, then in Bijnor, Rafia Zakat is there. They are my good friends in sociology. They are very good friends. They contribute articles also for my journal. But I have least interest in sociology. I can only differentiate very well what is sociology, what is anthropology, And beyond that, I have not ever been concerned with sociology, and I don't want to be also.
Sir, regarding this functionalism, what is the fundamental premise and also and how it is applicable to the, is it gives a universal human condition? It explains universal human nature, or how do you explain, sir?
It does explain, 100% it explains Malinowski's functionalism. Functionalism, you talk about, I'll say Malinowski's functionalism. Yeah. See, Malinowski, very simply, his definition of culture, very definition of culture explains everything. That's one of the smallest definitions of culture. Well, when we talk about the definitions of culture, let me tell you, there is a book published in 1952 by L. Kroeber and Clyde Cluckhorn.
Yes, sir.
The name is itself on the internet is gone perhaps. Hello.
I'm sorry, my laptop got switched off, so again I connected to power cut. It was showing low battery. I thought I connected, but the power is not connected.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so I reconnected, sir. I again switched on.
I think now the connection is getting.
I am from lunch.
Yes, it is time for lunch.
Sir, should we continue on?
If you desire to